Hi there, sweet mommies. This is Sherry Hayes with MomDelights.com. I'm the mom of 15. I've been homeschooling for over 3 decades. And I want to share something with you today that will add to your life. So if you got something else to do, since I'm just going to be talking, go ahead and get that done while we dive into the good life in Jesus. And today, what we're going to talk about is, can we afford babies? Now, lots of you may wonder, because my husband and I, we have raised, or we're almost raised, 15 children. So I think I can speak a little bit into this subject. Okay, I'm going to read my prepared notes, and I'm going to, go down lots of rabbit trails. So come along and enjoy. Having children is an awesome responsibility and one that should not be taken lightly. It is good we consider this aspect of our lives carefully. After all, this is about an eternal soul coming under our care, isn't it? Now, I know we've been conditioned to think we have a romantic, hopefully marital relationship established, and then we think about adding children into the picture, don't we? But this is not God's original intent. Yes, the marital bond is important and is meant as a picture of the heavenly relationship, right? However, when God instituted marriage between a man and a woman, it was meant to be procreative by definition, okay? In other words, children are not meant to be an, quote, add-on to a marriage, but one half of its core, right? At its core, it's for the bond, the intimacy, and the other part of the core is procreation. This is not to say a couple cannot experience a close relationship without children, but I do believe it will not be as flourishing as when children are a part of it, which goes against the grain of our modern thinking. We've been conditioned to think that you just have a marriage, and then if children are like having a pet, like, do you want a dog or a fish? Okay, this goes back to the point made in a previous post about the essential connection between sex and procreation. It is perilous to human society to separate the two, because it is out of this separation that all manner of perversions are normalized. If it's just an act, then anybody, anywhere, anytime, with anything can do it. Okay. So the time to consider whether having babies is welcome or not is way before the physical relationship begins, right? Because in the natural, normal scheme of things, we must concede to this maxim. And I'm going to say this loud and clear. I hope that, it's common sense, okay? Sex makes babies. That's why God instituted the whole thing. Sex is not just for having fun. That's part of it, but that's not all that it's for. It's for making babies. Birds do it, bees do it. It's a natural thing to further the population. I know it sounds weird. I know we don't believe this. A lot of you do, okay. But in general, in our society, in our culture, in Western culture, and now in Eastern culture as well, we've separated. We don't see the two as important with each other. So a couple becomes pregnant and their minds explode, especially if they weren't expecting to become pregnant, right? Okay. How are we going to afford this child? Where are we going to even keep this child? Now, a couple may live in a studio apartment or a bedroom in grandma's house. Most of us, when we first start out, we're not, we don't have loads of cash. I know that we've been taught to think that you can't have a family until you have loads of cash. But for most of the history of the human population, people usually start out pretty, lean. And you have to start from scratch, and you have to build your own life and your own family. So a couple that's just starting out, they are having a hard time keeping up with the bills as it is, and now they must add another human being who will need food and shelter and clothing, and they can't conceive pun intended, no, but intended, how this could be possible. How are they going to do it? I can remember when my husband and I first found out we were pregnant with our first child. My husband, for about 20 minutes, was freaked out, and then he recovered himself. And we celebrated that baby. But anyway, I recently listened to the account of a Holocaust survivor, Ava Clark, and you can find her all over YouTube, okay? Her parents were both Jews who were interned in the Terezin ghetto in what is now the Czech Republic. This is during World War II, okay? Now, during this time, the prison officials had separated husbands and wives within this ghetto, and they prohibited conjugal entanglements, precisely because they were trying to get rid of the Jews, not increase the population, right? So, but Ava's parents found a way, and her mother became pregnant. Now, she became pregnant twice in this ghetto. The first baby died soon after birth, but then she became pregnant with Ava. At that time, becoming pregnant meant instant execution, but she was able to hide her pregnancy and live on. At one point, it was obvious the Nazis were losing the war. This is in 1945. Okay, and so they became desperate. They tried to dispose of all the evidence of their many crimes by murdering all the abused, emaciated prisoners they could. So they tried to dispose of the evidence that they had committed all these heinous crimes. Now, as Eastern Europe was being liberated by the Soviets, they were hastily attempting to move all of their captives back closer to or into Germany, where they could then be executed and cremated and all the evidence would be gone. That was their goal, right? So Ava's mother was really advanced in her pregnancy during this time, and she was forced on a journey to Mauthausen, which was one of the camps in Austria. Okay, so they didn't have proper food, they didn't have water, they didn't have anything. And here she's in her advanced pregnancy, carrying Ava Clark in her womb. And they get to Mauthausen, and it's famous for having these stairs where you have to go up into the camp. And this is in the Alps, obviously. Okay, so she was too weak. There are a number of prisoners, not just Ava's mother was, her name was Anka, by the way. Ava's mother, Anka, was too weak to get up to where the camp was. So they were putting these weaker prisoners in carts, and they were having the other prisoners push them up. Okay, and so they put her in an old coal cart, and that's when she went into labor. And she birthed this little person, Ava Clark. Her mama, Anka, birthed her in this coal cart. All right, she only weighed 3 pounds. Somehow there was a doctor in that prison somehow, and he attended this little birth, and the little baby lived. And she was only 3 pounds, and there were no incubators, obviously. This is a 3-pound little baby. You know, if any 3-pound baby was born in a hospital today, we would stick that little thing in an incubator, wouldn't we? And we put it on oxygen, right? So, but there was nothing like that. So her mama just held her close to her body. That's all the warmth that she could muster. And her mama was skin and bones, right? But with the help of this doctor, this baby lived. And a few days later, the Allies came in and they liberated this camp. And there was a photographer there who documented Ava Clark's mama, Anka, and herself. Okay, so this is an extreme situation. The reason I'm sharing this story is to make a point that we, in our current situation, we think, oh my goodness, how could we have another child? We can't afford it, how we're going to feed it, etc., and so on and so forth. But I think that none of us will ever face the dire circumstances that Anka and her husband faced when they knew they were expecting Ava. Now, Anka met a former friend. They got married. They went on. They emigrated to England. And then Ava grew up, and she had a family, and she married an English person. And, you know, they shared stories, and they helped each other, and they got healing. And now Ava goes around, and she shares her story with others. And so many people are learning. They're learning about not allowing hate and scapegoating and all that kind of stuff, all that. She's warning people. She's showing people how you can overcome obstacles. Like her mom was amazing. Her mom lived to an old age, and Ava was able to help her mom in her old age. So there's so many different positive things that came out of that situation. But what if Ava's mom, Anka, and her husband had decided, we don't want this baby. You know, they were doing abortions in the camps. There were women that knew how to do abortions, and they actually helped women get those abortions. What if Ava's mom had decided that? What if she decided, I don't want to be close to my husband because, you know, we could have a baby and this could happen, and it happened to a lot of people, honestly. But in this situation, she took a chance. Her mama took a chance, and she expressed her love for her husband, probably one of the last times they were ever together. She conceived Ava. Ava went on to live, and Ava went on to be a blessing not only to her mom but to others. And I don't believe that any of us will ever face that kind of a decision, like are we going to be shot in the head if we get pregnant? You know, we're not there. And yet we think that in our modern society, with all of our advantages, you know, you might be living in a car someplace. You still have a better life than Anka and Ava did. You don't have people screaming at you and threatening to kill you and starve you and all these different things. You know, we have so much more wealth, so many more opportunities than that. And here's another thing. You know, if there's one thing you can count on, things are going to change. Maybe right now, maybe you don't have a lot of stuff. Maybe you're stuck in a situation. You live in a cramped apartment or a cramped house, or with some people that maybe don't like you, and you know you don't want to bring a child into that situation. Well, that doesn't mean that your situation can't change. Let me tell you, there was a time that my husband and I had 9 children, so there were 11 of us, and we lived in a house, a 3-bedroom house, that was less than 1,000 square feet big. We didn't have a shed. We didn't have a garage. So we had no storage whatsoever except what was in that little house, right? And we lived with 11 children. We lived with 11 of us, with 9 children and 2 adults in that little tiny house. You know, the Chinese people, they tried to have as many children as they could, and they used to live on those junk ships, right? In the harbor of Hong Kong. I think that we need to look at this situation differently. You know, after we lived in that under 1,000 square foot house, we moved to a 1,500 square foot house, and we owned that house. And we did all kinds of improvements. Now, we were still kind of stacked like sardines because we went on to have our 12th child while we lived in that house. So that's 3 more kids that we had while we were in 1,500 square feet. So we moved from there when there were 14 of us living in 1,500 square feet. And then we were able to have a 3,500 square foot house built. It had 6 bedrooms. Well, when we finished the basement, it had 6 bedrooms, and it had 4 bathrooms, and it was like a castle to us. You can imagine. We still had to have 3 to a room, but we had a little more roomy rooms, and we had lots of living spaces, and some of the older children were able to have their own bedroom. 2 of them were. So you see, it kind of worked out kind of cool. And so just because you are in a situation that's difficult right now doesn't mean that will be that way for the rest of your life. It's no reason, really, honestly, there's really no reason to refuse a child from God. Unless you're actually going to die. I mean, but even people have proven that that's not necessarily true. So you have to look at the whole picture, and you have to make your own decision. And like I said, there's no commandment, thou shalt have babies. Although God did suggest that we be fruitful and multiply, but I'm not going to put that on you because, you know, that's between you and the Lord. But I'm just suggesting that there's multiple evidence that we don't have to be afraid when we have a baby. A baby is evidence that God has still got good plans for us, right? Because he's putting another person on the earth. He must have good plans for us still. Okay, this quote is from a commenter on Psalm 127, verse 4. Okay, it says, "Children, might one say, as the word was uttered, I left mine in my distant home, in poverty, their wants and numbers increasing, with the means of providing for their comfort daily narrowing. Even should my life be prolonged, they will be children of want. But with sickness and warnings of death upon me, they will soon be helpless and friendless orphans. Yes, but will God be neglectful of his own heritage? Will he turn a gift into a sorrow? Poor as thou art, repine not at the number of thy children. Though lions lack, thou shalt not. If thou seekest him, and know that it may be even for their sakes that he feedeth thee. If even thou wouldst not part with one of them for thousands of gold and silver, believe that he who is the fountain of all tenderness regards them with yet deeper love, and will make them now, in thy hour of trial, a means of increasing thy dependence on him, and soon thy support and pride. Children, might another say, as the psalm referred to them. On their opening promise, the breath of the destroyer has been poured. They are ripening visibly for the grave, and their very smile and caress cause my wounded heart to bleed anew. Yes, mourner, but God's heritage. May he not claim his own? They are in safe keeping when in his, and will soon be restored to thee in the better land, where death will make them ministering angels at his throne. Nay, they will be the first to welcome thee to its glories, to love and worship with thee throughout eternity. Children, this word to a third of an even sadder and more anxious spirit might seem like the planting of a dagger in his heart. His children have forsaken their father's God. Their associates were the vain and vicious. Their pleasures were the pleasures of folly and shame. Their lives barren of all promise. Their souls destitute of all purpose, and steeled against all reproof. True, but the heritage of the Lord still. Hast thou, sorrowing parent, asked him for wisdom to keep it for him? Have due thought, prayer, watchful and holy living been expended on that heritage of God? No culture, no harvest in the soil. No prayer, no blessing from the soul. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old he will not depart from it, is a promise that though sometimes, yet but seldom has missed fulfillment. Bring them to Jesus, and, unchanged in his tenderness, he will still lay his hands upon them and bless them. And that's from a minister whose name was Robert Nisbet. So in this, he's covered 3 of the major reasons why we don't want to receive babies. And the number 1 is that the finances and the financial situation is not good. Number 2 is the possibility that they could get sick and die. And number 3 is that they could turn away from God. So he's covered all these 3 objections, and he said, you just have to walk in faith and be big-hearted, like we talked about. So there is a little saying that I think it's a German proverb, an old German proverb, and it says, many children make many trials, and many trials make many prayers, and many prayers bring many blessings. And it's true. It's true. When we're big-hearted towards God's plans, no matter what they might be, whatever part of life you're trusting God in, you know what? His plans are big, and he brings, and when we are forced to our knees because we're following him, and we pray, he answers our prayers, and so then we get more and more blessed. If we were all confident and we felt we didn't need him, then we wouldn't pray so much, and then he couldn't bless us as much, right? So I think we can speak, my husband and I, we can speak to this because we have trusted God in many different circumstances. And like I shared with our story about our house situation and jobs and all kinds of stuff. We've gone up and down, and we've had to learn to be abase and abound, right? Just like Paul the Apostle. But we can do all things through Christ who gives us strength, right? So now I have something to share with you. It's been so fun, all these things that we're talking about. And I love visiting with you. I also like sharing with you stuff that I'm doing. So I've been busy creating a lot of different products and things that are for free. This right here is not for free. This is Homeschool Sanity. This is a book that I wrote in 2012 and published on Amazon. And it kind of goes through a general understanding of my homeschool philosophy and kind of how I got to where I am today. I've evolved a little bit since then, but for the most part, this is what I do. This is our last daughter. We're talking about babies. This is the baby of the family. Anyway, so you can find that, and I try to keep everything at an affordable price. The next thing I want to talk about is this. It's Splendid Spelling. You can find this for free download on my website, momdelights.com, and you can have it already printed and bound on amazon.com. So this is a fun thing. I did this entirely with Canva, believe it or not, and it's based on some really solid books that concentrate on phonetic spelling to give a child a really good foundation. And you know, the English language is really squirmy, right? It's hard to really nail it down. But this just gives a good foundation for the rest of spelling. And it's really easy to go through. Your kids don't have to spend a lot of time with it too. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you are these gentle grammar books. And these gentle grammar books were formulated from an old book in the Eclectic Learning series, you know, that was done by the same people who did the revised McGuffey Readers. And so a child who's just beginning to read and write, my children never knew what a sentence was when I told them to write a sentence. This book teaches them what sentences are without using the words noun and verb and adjective and adverb until the very last book, I believe. There are 4 different levels, and they start very gently, as it's called, gentle grammar. And I've kind of revised them, reformatted them in a way that this is a consumable workbook. And these are also for free download in my freebie section. You can get them and print them out yourself. And a lot of you have been enjoying them. I see them on Instagram and different things. So that's one more thing that's available. And they're very affordable. Okay, and then this right here, this is one of the lesson books. I have 5 levels of these. These are meant to go along with the McGuffey Readers, but you can use them, like this one you could even use with a Dr. Seuss book. Okay, this has a place for children to practice writing short words and then drawing pictures about them. I noticed this because I started this because one of my children, when I started to teach them with the McGuffey Readers, that's what we would do. We would do some copy work. I tried to apply Charlotte Mason principles to the McGuffey Readers, and then this can be used with any book you want to use with the Charlotte Mason method of copy work, dictation, narration. Okay, and sometimes it's like drawing narrations, not writing. Okay. This is the number 2. It still has the dotty lines, but a little more writing inside of it. This is the 3rd one. So the dotty lines are gone, but there are places for copy work and vocabulary and dictation and all that. This one is a level, here's level 4. And, little narrower lines, more writing than that was previously done. A place for more sentences. Lots of my children really appreciated writing their own sentences. And this is level 5. And this goes to more of a 2-page format with sentences, copy work, and narration. Because in the upper levels of the revised version of the McGuffey Readers, there really aren't any words unless you pull your own out. So those are the lesson books, and those are a lot of fun. And there's a form of these for free download on my website, and then you can get these already made up so that you can have something for your children just to grab and go with, right? Okay, so my newest venture has been these Commonplace books. Now this is the primary level, and this one is very simple and straightforward. There's a place for your child to do some drawing, make a header, do some drawing, and just either some copy work, or you can write down what they want to say, or they can write something original. And we did a contest, and a lot of sweet, sweet things came out of that. I enjoyed that so much. It was so fun. Our whole family enjoyed that. So that's that. And then there's the second one that I've done so far, and this one is it's lined, and it's a 2-page spread. It's for a little more advanced learner. And then my 3rd one, which I'm just about done formatting, I have to format all the pages, and then I have to submit it with a cover over to KDP, and that's going to be, so there's going to be primary number 2, and then the book number 3 is going to go with this, and that's going to be more like upper middle school, high school kind of level. So you'll see that soon. And then this is what I've been doing for the art for my newest. Now, I really enjoy physical art. I do enjoy the digital art, but and this is new for me, so I'm learning things. So this one will be probably an improvement. It'll have the same kind of style, but I think it will be an improvement on what I've done before when I finally digitize it and colorize it. I think it will be better. And the insides of this are going to be tremendously helpful. This is going to be the big book of homeschool lists, instructions, and ideas. So it's going to be full of lists of all kinds of things, like where you find the Bible stories in the Bible. Different, like all the historical figures I can think of. The different periods of United States and world history. Different important persons, themes in the Bible. Like what do children need to know about science, about, it's not going to be exhaustive, but I'm going to try to make it really like full. It's going to be very full of all kinds of different ideas. We're going to talk about how to do a notebooking page, how to use compositions books. A lot of the stuff that I've already published, I'm going to put in here, plus a whole bunch of different lists that I use all the time when I'm homeschooling my own children. I'm going to try to put forms of those. Some of those are copywritten, so I'm not going to do it exactly. I'm going to have my own flavor, but I'm going to reference a lot of that different stuff and put it in this book. So this is a huge project that I'm working on. This right here, well, I just take my little snippets of time when everybody's watching a movie or something, and Mom will be sitting there, she'll be drawing. I love this. I absolutely adore this work. This is so fun. So I think this will be a huge project. It might take me a year. I'm trying to be realistic, but I'm hoping when I do this, you see, then combined with all these other books, we will almost have a complete curriculum. Of course, when it comes to math, I'm still like rolling around all kinds of ideas on that, because you have to do a lot of formatting when you do a math book. But I've worked with that before, so we'll see what happens, God willing, right? So I hope you like this stuff. I hope you are taking advantage of all the different free things I offer in my freebie section on my website at momdelights.com. Now, let's get back to our talk. Isn't it great that I just love my job. I love this little job I do, this little space on the internet that I have to share with you. And I thank you so much for all your sweet comments. And there have been people that have donated money. Thank you so much for that. And just, you guys are so wonderful. I'm so glad that you're here, that you give a little bit of your time to listen to me. You have a wonderful day. Please like and subscribe. Bye-bye.